ETHLatam. Man, they couldn't have picked a better city for this conference. Raise your hand if it's your first time in Buenos Aires. It's my first time. While you're here, make sure you have a media luna. Just don't call it a croissant. They don't like it when you do that. My name is Brian Berman, and I work at Edge & Node, which is a core developer contributing to the graph. I'm here to talk to you about my journey into web3, how I found my niche with decentralized APIs with the graph, and why decentralization should matter to you. So I used to have a career in media. I worked in the media industry for 8 years, and I really enjoyed it. To me, it was really important. I thought it was so important to share information and truth with the world, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for the longest time. Especially towards the end of my media career, where I got to work in entertainment journalism. That was really fun because I got to interview actors, directors, go to red carpet movie premieres. It was awesome. Personal highlight of mine, I got to interview the cast of SpongeBob. And fun fact, Tom Kenny, the voice actor of SpongeBob, loves SpongeBob memes, so keep them coming. But it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun until it wasn't. 2 years ago, a little thing happened, right? 2020, absolute dumpster fire of a year. It really sucked, right? During my deepest COVID despair of 2020, I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't interviewing anyone. I was stuck at home, reflecting on society. And I, like many of us, was scared. I thought I could turn to the media for answers. And I was met with disappointment, division, ignorance, and fear were abundant. And I realized that there was something terribly wrong with the state of the media industry. During the biggest global pandemic of our lifetime, I found that I wasn't able to rely on the media to find truth and information. What I found instead was a dark, intricate web that wasn't driven by truth, but by greed of monopolies. It was a big wake-up call. And what you're looking at right here is not a blockchain. This is the anti-blockchain of centralization, questionable incentives, and closed-door decision-making. The total opposite of an open and free blockchain. You're looking at the biggest media entities in the world, and they're eating up all the other guys, all the other media entities. The big blue circles represent 6 giants in media that are just buying everybody else up. And, throughout the pandemic, I kept reading variations of the same headline. Another network, another channel, another website, another newspaper was being acquired by a larger company. And these are just a couple examples. This just barely scratches the surface of the biggest acquisitions and the biggest names to the tunes of billions of dollars. And I'm not a fan of monopolies across the board, but it felt particularly wrong to see monopolization in the media. I mean, that's just a source of power that should not fall into any centralized hands. It could be easily abused. So this is our reality. Disney, Amazon, AT&T own a majority of the world's media. Almost everything you watch, read, and see is being owned by less and less companies with more and more influence. And what's worse is these companies have no incentive to provide the truth. In fact, their incentive is to make money. And how do you make money? Well, you get more views on your content. How do you get more views? Well, you make things sound more exciting or outrageous or agitating than they really are. So you get outrage pieces, you get clickbait, you get disinformation. It makes them rich and you ignorant. Finding trustworthy, verifiable information became really difficult in this time, and I became really disillusioned. I mean, what happened to the early dream of the internet, what we call Web 1? What happened to the dream of a decentralized pool of many diverse voices that could contribute to the pool of truth and information? Monopolistic gatekeepers like these turn that dream into a nightmare. and this is a nightmare too. I had to leave. I had to get out. I had to get out and work in something I believed in. And I was looking everywhere, and everywhere I ran into the same problems of centralization. I couldn't find the right values. I mean, I saw this everywhere in every industry. But eventually, I did find one small community that really aligned with me, that really got my values. I found you. I found the Ethereum community. Ethereum showed me that you can have transparency and truth in this future of the internet, in Web3. The blockchain don't lie, right? I fell in love with how collaborative Ethereum is, focusing on the user, creating abundance, reshaping global institutions for the better, not creating more monopolies. But as I became more familiar with Ethereum, I then had to find what was really important to me. So coming from the media industry, I thought that this technology could do a better job at disseminating truth and information. I realized I really wanted to zero in on open data in the ecosystem. I left media because I was tired of misinformation, rage clicks, division. I disagreed with the manipulation of information. I really thought that open data should be a public good, easily accessible, and secured by decentralization. When you're in Ethereum and you're looking at the blockchain, you don't have fake news. My beef with the media's anti-blockchain was solved by the blockchain in all its open and transparent glory. But the blockchain is messy. Finding the data that you need is difficult. And a lot of companies try to do it themselves or try to build centralized indexing nodes. And quite often, they find that it's expensive, inefficient, and slow. I thought there had to be a better way. So the blockchain has all the raw ingredients to solve a lot of the qualms that I had with the media industry, but it's not really organized enough to create great user experiences in this new form of the internet. After all, the blockchain is optimized to write data, not read it. So I had to find my niche. And as with anyone who builds in Ethereum, I eventually found the graph, and I knew I was in good hands. So what is the graph, and how does it work? What's the graph? Let me dial back for a minute. So I've been working at Edge Node, the initial team behind the graph, for about a year now. We're working on the graph in a decentralized way with 7 other teams. And here's how I like to explain what the graph does. So this is the blockchain. This is the blockchain in its raw form. Looking for information in the blockchain is like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's easy to get overwhelmed by raw data. Even if you used a block explorer, it's still not easy. Raise your hand if you've ever been down an Etherscan rabbit hole, right? Clicking through transactions, trying to follow it A to Z. I mean, it's exhausting. Almost as bad as the Wikipedia rabbit hole that kept me up last night. But if we want to have decentralized applications, or dApps, that have snappy front-end user interfaces that are really a joy to interact with, if we want great user experiences, we have to organize blockchain data. And that's where the graph comes in. The graph takes this mess of blockchain data and turns it into this. Neat little piles of delicious organized data. And you can use it for many different use cases. This all works because of a key technology in the graph called subgraphs. Subgraphs are decentralized, open source APIs that allow you to query blockchain data. If you're using a subgraph, you can define a couple of things. You can say, I need this specific blockchain data organized this specific way and served to me this specific way. And because they're open source, anyone can publish a subgraph or query or fork an existing one to build their own projects. So subgraphs sit at the indexing and query layer of the Web3 stack. I assume many of you are developers, right? And if you're trying to pull information from the blockchain and create a great application, you don't want to waste your time sorting through data. You want to create a really good experience. You want to focus on your UI. And your time is valuable. You can't waste it sorting through candy on the blockchain. You want to make an amazing user experience. And that's why you want to use subgraphs, because you might be approaching it from many different angles. Everyone needs a little different slice of the blockchain when they're building Web3 applications. And if you look at it sequentially, block by block, you're going to end up with a lot of irrelevant data. So what subgraphs do is take that data and organize it into neat little buckets of just the data you need for your dApp. So I want to take a moment to show a more technical explanation of how subgraphs work, like real gigabrain stuff over here. So yeah, that's it in action. This is what subgraphs do. They're sorting it. I mean, you get the idea. What you need is easy to find thanks to subgraphs. So subgraphs have a lot of use cases. You can build any dApp you want because we're all accessing the same blockchain. We just need to access it in a different way. Whether you're building an NFT project, working in DeFi, creating DeFi analytics, even exploring new forms of media like music with Audius or streaming with LivePeer. Hundreds of dApps use the Graph's decentralized network. And that means there are hundreds of subgraphs that you can get to work with right now. They're already out there. They're open source. You don't have to start and build one from scratch. You can use one that already exists. And I want to walk through a couple of use cases that people have created that are powered by subgraphs. So one that I like to go through is called ETHSign. ETHSign is like a decentralized DocuSign. You can send PDFs, contracts to an Ethereum address, and you can sign those contracts with your Ethereum address. The way ETHSign uses a subgraph is they track the history of the blockchain of state changes, right? As events are emitted by their smart contract, they can create a summary of how each PDF, each contract has changed, who's opened it, who's forwarded it, who's signed it. That's all recorded on the blockchain, and they can reconstruct all that information really easily and quickly using a subgraph. And it creates a lightning-fast experience. And it saves them a lot of gas, too. Another example, NFTs. This is an NFT collection called Nifty League. It's actually an NFT-gated gaming platform. So the way they use subgraphs is, first, they authenticate whether or not you own the NFT in this collection. That's one way once you open up the actual dApp. Another thing that subgraphs power for not only Nifty League, but tons of other dApps is really fast search and filter features. So if you want to integrate like a search bar up there, and you want to make it really easy to sort through a lot of information that you're showing your user, you can use subgraphs, and it makes it lightning fast, and you can add filtering features too. There's DeFi implications too. You can build DeFi analytics with beautiful charts, graphs, and you can create a dashboard of just the information you need, right? So this is Capital Dex. It's tracking information from Curio's automated market maker. They're tracking ERC20 tokens, trading pairs, trading volume. You can display this data in an easy-to-see way really quickly and beautifully thanks to subgraphs. Again, focusing on the UI and creating great user experiences. And so the graph is useful for a variety of use cases, and it'll stay that way because it's decentralized. The graph is powered by thousands of participants all over the world. It's a stark contrast to the 6 media giants I showed you earlier, and a big reason I really love contributing to this ecosystem. Indexers run indexing nodes around the world, and they actually process information that subgraphs are organizing. Curators identify which subgraphs are really useful, and delegators stake with indexers to secure and decentralize the network. Delegators and curators don't even have to run a node to contribute. It's a community that's open to everyone. The Graph's decentralized data economy keeps access to the blockchain data robust, secure, and reliable. In my media career, I was worried about centralized powers controlling information all over the world. I found the antidote in the Ethereum community, and I found my home with the Graph. But I want to make sure that Web3 doesn't repeat the mistakes of centralization that we've seen in Web 2. So why does my journey matter to you? Well, again, you're most likely building dApps. You're interested in building out Ethereum. You really think this Web3 thing is going to change the world. A bold cause. But in order for it to work, we have to make sure we don't repeat the mistakes of centralization in Web 2. Here's one I like to show a lot. This is, go to killedbygoogle.com if you want to see a graveyard of every project Google has ever shut down. Over 270 of them to date. I mean, I used to love using Google Hangouts, and they just shut off support for that. Dead next month. Google Chrome apps was really useful to people for a long time. Dead last month. It was alive for 11 years, but Google can just pull the plug anytime it wants. In Twitter, we've seen how shutting down APIs and key features of APIs can really hurt people. Hundreds of people built entire businesses and communities off of Twitter's API. A couple of years ago, they killed most of the most useful features of that API. And when Jack Dorsey wised up to Web3, he called it the worst thing Twitter ever did. Facebook's guilty too. How many of you guys remember Vine? I miss Vine a lot. And when Facebook was trying to build out Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg personally wrote a message and said, shut down the integration with Vine. Vine was using Facebook's API to make it easier for folks to find their friends and add their friends. I mean, they're your friends, right? You should be able to see who you can connect with. But in Mark Zuckerberg's eyes, they're Facebook's friends, not yours. TikTok's not the same, by the way. Even in Web3, we've seen reflections on centralization. Earlier this year, Moxie Marlinspike, founder of Signal, played around with Web3, and he published a piece called My First Impressions of Web3. And he was shocked that there wasn't all that much decentralization. A lot of folks building in Web3 were relying on centralized APIs and centralized infrastructure. But if you've built your business, your dream, using centralized APIs, well, I've got news for you. Whoever runs that API at any moment in time can just shut you down. Just like that. Why should anyone be able to flip the light switch on your dApp, on your dream, on your business, on any app? This is why we need decentralization. This is why Web3 needs the Graph. The Graph puts the D in dApp, and by that I mean your dApp isn't decentralized unless it's running on decentralized infrastructure and decentralized APIs. I want to encourage you all to get involved in the Graph ecosystem. The 8 core developer teams are hiring. You can join with a permissionless job on the Graph network, contributing to decentralization. There is an advocates program, and you can get involved in various community roles. So I encourage you guys to scan this and check out different ways to keep in touch with us and even apply to a couple of jobs. Working at Edge and Node, contributing to the Graph, was my first Web3 job, and it's completely changed my life. And all the qualms and issues and frustrations I had with the media industry were solved by Ethereum and the Graph, and I couldn't be more grateful for this community. So, thank you so much.